Michael Forman. I'm a corporate speaker. I'm about to go on to this online show to show you, explain to you the importance, not only the necessity, but the importance of networking and communicating more effectively and efficiently. Okay. And if you do that, do everything that we're saying to follow up with the person, you'll get more profits at the end.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have an absolute treat for you. Joining us is none other than Michael A. Forman, a seasoned expert in the art of networking and communication. Now, Michael, how are you doing today?
I am doing just fine today. And how about yourself?
I don't know. We're gonna have to tell how this show goes, but so far
Sure.
so good, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. I mean, you're an expert that helps professionals to network and communicate more profitably. Who wouldn't want that?
That's true. I really try not to use the term expert because I feel that once you achieve that level of expert, you don't have to learn anything else. And I constantly learn every single day. I constantly add and change and do to make the networking communication experience the best that it could be.
Absolutely. And I quite like that, because if we're always learning and we're always, growing, that would definitely make, whatever relationships that we create with our businesses and the people around us easy and amicable. Now, for those that are watching right now, if you've ever wondered how to transform all those awkward handshakes into profitable relationships, I think Michael is your guy. Like he says, he's not an expert, but he's forever learning how to deal with humans. And as you will see from his history, he has an extensive array of experiences that he's had with the human race itself. From being an author of The Networking Unleashed, which is also a must read for anyone that's serious about elevating the networking game. And yes, those who actually think that the best way to network is by hiding behind a buffet table at events, Michael has actually owned a restaurant, so he'll definitely be out there talking to you, making sure that you are actually contributing to whatever is happening there. So as you can tell, Mike has done it all, from owning restaurants, a design studio, to actually excelling in the mortgage industry. He knows how to speak to people in different, methods and variations. And also, Michael, thank you for your service, because you're a proud, Desert Storm veteran, right?
I'm a proud Air Force veteran, and it was my honor to serve.
Absolutely. So that means Michael is also no stranger to discipline and commitment. But here's a kicker. He doesn't just talk the talk. He's actually helped countless professionals increase their profits by simply teaching them how to communicate better. Now, I could go on and stop mincing my words while we've got the professional himself in front of us. Now, Michael, tell us a little bit about your journey so far, and how you became, although you say you're not an expert in communication, but I'd like to call you a communications expert.
Sure. Well, let me go back as far as the U.S. Air Force, because I rose in rank fairly quickly. I put 9 years into the Air Force, and I found myself in a position where I was younger than some of the people I was with, but I outranked them. So I had to be very careful in which the way that I was, that I, ordered them around, but I had to do it in such a way where they were thankful and grateful to do it. And from there, I went on to owning pizzerias, restaurants, graphic design studio. I then went into the mortgage industry and the law industry as a sales director. So I've learned how to talk to people from every direction. You never talk at people, you talk to someone. Whenever you go and you're introduced or you go to a networking event, when you're introduced to somebody, shake their hand firmly, shake their hand firm so that you mean business. Look them in the eye. You have to look them in the eye. You have to give the other person the feeling of confidence. Because if they feel that you're not confident in what you're talking about, you're lost. So you have to start out just in that way.
And thank you so much for, obviously letting us know this part of your history. Now, Michael, during the pandemic, I learned of terminology which I don't know if you agree with or not. It's called, there's a peacetime leader and a wartime leader. And what you just explained is at a young age of 21, you were actually leading older people. And in the army, sometimes you're actually commanded to go towards where the enemy is firing or where danger is at. And there takes a different level of communication, especially from a younger person to an older person. Is it something that you have to learn because of the circumstances, or you're actually taught in the military?
Well, it's kind of taught to you, but there's a big difference between being a leader and a boss. Okay. And the main difference is a boss will be taking orders and spout out orders and just, expect you to just go and do. A true leader will take it upon himself, make sure that everybody understands the orders. Okay. And those that need help will help them. And then we'll go into the trenches with them. And, it's a difference between going in and leading and say, come on, follow me, or the hill's over there and just go and I'll be over here. Okay. There's the main difference. So I always tried at a very young age. I knew this and I tried to be a leader as opposed to being a boss.
Can only imagine, because if you have people around you that think they know better, they've been there before you have, and yet they're taking instructions and commands from you, that obviously there has to be some sort of a some sort of learnings that are in there. Now, you've also had such a diverse career. I mean, from the military, you then went on to run a pizzeria and also to working in the mortgage industry. Can you maybe tell us how this sort of background has now shaped your approach to networking and communication?
As I said before, it all helped me negotiate or respect the person with whom I'm speaking. And really that's the number one thing is you have to have a mutual respect and you have to earn that respect. You have to, because you have to respect the person, but they in turn have to respect you. And you can really tell from the beginning whether or not that person respects what you say and what you do, as opposed to saying, yeah, 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 sure. That's when you have to put your foot down a bit more. But as a business owner, I had to talk to employees with enough respect where they respected me and they worked harder for me. And, in the mortgage business and in the law firm, then I was dealing with other people and you have really, 10 seconds to build up that trust because listen, there's a mantra in networking. If they know you, if they like you, if they trust you, they'll do business with you. So knowing you, look, I know you. You're a great guy. Do I like you? Okay, I like you. All right, but that brings up the last module. That brings up the trust factor. And listen, you can talk all you want, but unless the person trusts you, he's not going to do business with you. And that's the goal of everybody is to gain the person's trust. And how do you gain that person's trust? That's the kicker. So I didn't develop this. I stole this idea, borrowed it, and it's FORM, FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and a message that you can go to the same level as them. So pick any one of those letters and you talk to that person about their family. You married? Oh, that's great. You have children? Yeah, that's great. They play sports? Oh, sport. Baseball? Oh, that's great. I used to be an umpire. I used to be a baseball coach. Tell me about your son. And we talk and talk and talk. And none of this is about business. Surely his wall begins to come down and his trust factor increases. And that is the beginning.
I quite like this because I mean, obviously, there's certain things that you can notice about somebody that because people like us do things like this, the way somebody dresses, the way somebody maybe what they eat or things of that nature, that may actually just make you resonate with someone. Now, while you were trying to bring about this point, you said it usually takes about 10 seconds for somebody to formulate that sort of a decision. What is actually happening and what is somebody calculating in their head in order for them to then figure out if is this friend or foe?
Well, there's a saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. Okay. But when you are going to a networking event and you walk up to a table and here, let's break it down a little bit more. You walk up to a table and you're listening. You don't say a word. You walk up to the table and you listen for the conversation. You listen to see if it's a conversation that you want to go into. If it's not, you politely bow out and go to the next table. But let's say it is. It is. And okay, so now you have something interesting that you want to say. You say it and you see how many people respond to what you say. So now let's say 2 of the 4 or 5 people actually responded and agreed with you. So now you can divert your attention to one of those people and you implement that form. But the main thing is you listen. You have to respect that person and they will respect you. Okay. So now if you talk to that person, don't talk business. Bring up the form. Listen, family, occupation. Okay, if it's business he wants to talk about, then tell me about your job. Tell me how you do it. Let them talk. Because one thing is for sure, people love to talk about themselves. And they'll talk and talk and talk. So now, if you've done your job correctly, now you haven't said anything that you do, but if you've done your job correctly, they will ask you, what did you do? What tell me about yours. And then you can start to reciprocate. But you take his business card, and that's a key factor for the follow-up. Now, the follow-up is key. It's more important than just meeting the person. But on the back of his card, write down the date, the name of the function, and something you spoke about. And that all comes into play for the follow-up. But before you leave, you say, something? I like what you do. I like how you're doing it. How can I be the best referral source for you? So now, because listen, anytime you network or go to a function, always look to give, not to receive. What goes around will come around, but always looking to give. So when you ask that, how can I be a good referral source for you? He's thinking like, wow, he did listen to me. He did pay attention. And he tells you how you can be a good referral source. And nothing is better than after you leave and you find somebody that would be interested in his services and referring him.
So that whole mantra, ask not what the world will do for you, but ask what you can do for your network partners, pretty much.
Absolutely. And listen, if everybody has that in mind, what goes around will come around. You'll get your referrals, you'll get your business, but don't go to the event figuring that you would do business. I went, I was at a networking event and a table of 4 or 5 people, and a guy comes walking up, goes, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Joe Blow. I sell this." Listen, here's my card. Boom, 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 boom. Can I have everybody's card? Oh, great, great. Listen, I want to catch up with you, but I want to hit everybody in this event. Okay, so I'll speak to you later. And he was off. See the way you're looking? That's what felt like. Like, what? And everybody tossed his
Mm,
card. Okay, so that was
yeah.
the exact opposite of what you should be doing.
Absolutely. See, we go to a lot of networking events and, we get receipts of attendance, which is usually cards and cards and cards. And for you to actually realize who actually owns this card and what sort of conversation, half of the time it's just a card swap. Now, you say your
That's why you're
goal.
right. But that's why you write down the date, the name of the function, and something you spoke about, because that will jog your memory of what that person did.
I like that. And one of your goals is to get people to communicate properly. I mean, aren't we texting and connecting on LinkedIn and things of that nature? What do you think is the biggest communication mistake that maybe professionals or business owners are making today? When it comes to communication.
That's simple. That's simple. When you meet with somebody, whether it's you're meeting a group or a single person, take your cell phone and put it away. That's the number one distraction for everybody. And if you're a 20 something or even a 30 something, take their cell phone away. That's like cutting their arm off.
But
Okay.
but
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 you
Mike, I run a business, and I mean,
yeah,
obviously, it's one of those things that. Oh, sorry. Yes, you were saying.
exactly. That's exactly right. But listen, I always say, unless you're a doctor, okay, you should put that phone away because the 3 hours you're in this event isn't going to make a difference. You're not going to have to answer that email within the next 3 hours. Okay. So, really, because you want to give 100% of your attention to the person that you're speaking with. Now, if your cell phone is out, you haven't given 100%. Because if your cell phone goes off, even the lights or the vibration, it's going to detract and it's going to take your attention away. So even for that second, you don't have 100% of their attention. Okay. So the trick is be present, be yourself, don't be distracted, and put that cell phone away. Okay. Be present. When that person is talking, listen. Don't think about the next thing that you want to say. Think about what they are saying. Pause after you listen. Pause after you stop listening and then respond to what he said.
I like that. I like that. I mean, it really shows that you love networking so much that you wrote a book about it. Now, let's talk about networking unleashed. What actually inspired you to write this book, and what can people expect from it?
Well, what inspired me was my 30 years of networking, my 10 years of going on stages. But within the last year or so, I was talking to my wife and I said, listen, I've got all this knowledge. And she said, why don't you put it into a book? You know? So I put it into a book, and it's not a very big read. It's about 45, 50 pages. And if you watch and if you listen to exactly what I said, it will increase your response rate. Because I always say, look, you go to a networking event, your box of cards, that's way too much. You should walk away with more than 15, 20 cards because those are the people that you spoke to. I'm not talking about one of those 20-minute networking, dating, quick dating things. I'm talking about when you go into an event or something and you have to respond and talk with that person. So it's really that important. So if you look now, if you go to my website, okay, on there, yes, you can buy the book, but there is something next to it. There's an abridged version of my book. It gives you the high points. It's a PDF and it's free to download. And that will tell you from soup to nuts what to do, what not to do, how to do it, what not to do. And it's a really good, it starts off really, really well. It doesn't go into being an extrovert as opposed to an introvert, because that opens up a whole new can of worms. But it tells you about when you go to a networking event like a Chamber of Commerce, and just like 90% of the people are the same people that always go to these meetings. But let's say there was somebody else that just walked in, and as you said, would go right to the wall. Take it upon yourself. Walk over, introduce yourself. Say, hey, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Oh, you do marketing? That table over there is filled with people that would love to talk to you. Come on over. I'll introduce you. Now, what have you just done? You've elevated yourself in their eyes. Look, he showed me, he introduced me, and he'll probably have a good time for the evening. Okay, but he won't forget you. And what did you do? You didn't say what your business was. You didn't say anything about yourself. You did nothing but give.
I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, "Help enough other people get what they want, and then you too will get that which you want." And it rings true with all that you're saying. And obviously, you've given us this gift of the book, which I think a lot of people will be rushing to your website. I'll put the links in there so that they can get the abridged version. Now, you did mention that it was your wife that sort of got you to start writing this book and put your ideas in a book format, and you and your wife actually experienced medical scares that actually changed your path. Maybe
Yes.
walk us through how that sort of time really pushed
Well,
you into embracing public speaking and networking.
about 11 or 12, 13 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with colon cancer and stage two. And it was a horrible scare for all of us. She went through chemo, she went through everything. And she was very sedate. She was very calm through the whole process. She goes, look, I know I'm not going to die. We'll get through this and we'll just have to get over it. And we did. Got over it. But you know what? I was so into her having cancer that I wanted to one up her, and I had to have a stroke. So I had a stroke. Okay. It was a bad stroke. I was paralyzed on my right hand side. Um, Again, my wife was right there. She saw the symptoms of a stroke. She immediately jumped into action. She called the police, the ambulance, and everything else. And we were close enough to the hospital where I was in a hospital like within 15 minutes. And the doctor came out with this shot, and she goes, "Look, I can give him this shot. It'll either help him or it'll kill him." And what did my wife say? Well, he's no good to me this way. Okay. What? Not quite like that, but just as funny. I still bring it up to her every chance I get. But listen, I went through everything in about 3 months, 6 months, about 95% back to normal. That's about as good as I'm going to get. And that told me, listen, we're not here forever. We have to live the way we want to live. And as long as we can afford to do that, we really have to change our way of thinking. And we're living in New York at the time, and it's a lot faster paced than Georgia. We moved down to Georgia about 6 years ago, and we are not looking back because the pace is so different and the money is easier, but it's not. It's the same but different. I don't know how to explain it. But
Mm.
but the health issues that we had really prompted us, really said, okay, look, you better start looking for something new. And that time I was in the mortgage industry. I got out of that real quick. I jumped into I was a manager of the golf section of the Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay. So I might as well enjoy myself before we moved down. So I did. and got my golf in. But we moved down here, and things were 100% better.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that story. I mean, obviously, in life, we go through stuff, but very few people actually look at most of these events as learning events. But I quite like how you presented this story because you actually injected humor in a very serious story. And this is something that is a learned experience for a lot of people, having accepted whatever it is that has befallen on them. And you're actually known for doing this in most of your talks. How do you actually then balance being both informative and entertaining during these presentations?
Well, whenever I go on stages, I'm always injecting humor, okay? Because people remember stories and they remember humor, okay? You can have the best information possible and they'll only remember half of it or a third of it, okay? But if you tie it into a story or make humor or make a joke about it, they'll remember the feeling, the jokes, the stories more so than your information.
I quite like that because so many people just want to say the facts. Stories sell, and facts just tell the whole thing that has been around. And there's so many people that we know predicated on their own personal stories, not so much whatever their accomplishments and things of that nature. Now, so many people can't do this. How do you encourage people to find stories and be courageous enough to tell them in order for them to connect with those that they wish to communicate with?
Stories are easy because if you think back through your life, everyday situations, you can always make it funny. Okay. Listen, as part of my talk, of course, I always try to inject humor. But if you're not funny, don't do it. Okay. Because people can tell right away, like, oh, and then they were crossing the road at, they can tell. All right. So if you can inject the humor, because there's humor in everything. I find humor in everything. Okay. No matter what it is, I find humor in it. What in my talks, one of my slides is a picture of two chimpanzees. And everybody looks all confused. And I walk over and I put myself in the middle. I said, I'm the middle brother. That's Scott. That's Steve. And I brought a family photo and, get them going. And it usually breaks them up a little bit. And it works. It works. It sets things at ease. And you have to really, it's modulating the way you speak. If you want to make a point, or if you just want to make sure that they're just understanding just enough. It's you have to really learn how to do that. But when you inject the humor, it really takes people aside and they laugh at themselves more than anything else.
You need to send me that slide, Michael, so I can put that as your absolutely. But
No,
it's
I'm not going to do that because you
I
would
will,
put it up.
well, the internet is always giving, you did.
Yes,
I will,
yes.
fantastic. But with what you're saying, it's actually quite clear that you're really, really passionate about helping businesses and business people and people really connect better. But there's always something that keeps you in the race. I mean, there's got to be something in it for you. What's been the most sort of rewarding aspect of helping somebody um, improve their networking skills? Have you got an
Well,
example or somebody that you can, you know?
it's a lot easier than that, okay? Because I get paid to go on stages. I get paid to go in front of people. So that is really my reward. But I also teach high schoolers, people for the Key Club and different kind of clubs like that. So I go to the high school and I give them this talk for free. Now I coach them because I do coaching, coach 5 at a time, and I charge for that. But when I walk into the school, that's all for free because they are just now going out into the business world. Yes, they're going to colleges, and I do the same thing for universities. I charge them though, but not the high schools. But they're going in and they have to learn the skills to communicate with one another because they're just, ever since the pandemic, people, the 20 somethings, the 30 somethings, what I'm speaking of is Greek because they don't understand. They don't understand like you and I. Like, this is common sense. All I'm saying is common sense. Do common sense things, but they don't know from common sense. And I'm here to show them what the common sense direction should be.
Absolutely. I quite like that. I mean, not only did you serve your nation, but now you're also serving the next generations. And, it only comes from, somebody who's a giver at heart. And like you mentioned, you're also coaching other people to be, do, and have a happier sort of existence. But you've also had coaches of your own. You've worked with luminaries like Barry Habib, I think, and
Yeah,
also John
Barry Habib was,
Maxwell. Yeah,
he,
and
he was
how
making a
does
mortgage.
yeah, how does having great minds like this as an influence or yardstick important for people, because you're doing the same now. You're sending the elevator down to the other kids because somebody did that for you prior.
Yeah, right. And one person, Dr. Reggie Wright, he was a professional basketball player turned police officer, and I did police work in the Air Force. So we connected almost immediately, and he said, "Look, if you're going to start by giving. Okay, give your talks to the high schools, give your talks for free, and let them teach the younger children on up. Listen, you get paid for the conferences, the summits, the universities, and everything else like that. But for the younger kids, give it away. And it's come back tenfold.
I quite like it because if you give without expecting anything in return, it definitely will come back to you. See, I officially believe in life we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. So, in order for you to live the best life, you need to have learned how to do that, which is what you have done in all your experiences and the people that you've learned from. And now you are contributing to humanity in ways that will obviously keep perpetuating, because if people know how to communicate, you can only imagine there's so much information and knowledge that is yet to be discovered, which we haven't even tapped into. And if people can communicate that, it actually makes the world a better place. So you, my friend, are doing your bit to make this world a better place. Now, if people are going to be looking to maybe be part of what you're doing or join you or connect with you, what would be the best way that people can be in touch with you, Michael?
The best way is to go to my website, michaelaforman.com, right? michaelaforman.com. There you will see I think I have only about 40 podcasts on there. I have pictures. I belong to a speakers bureau. You can get my book. You can get the abridged version, the PDF format for free. But there's at the very bottom, there's an email list and a contact form. And the contact form is just for that. Okay. Anybody who, if you just want to talk to me or ask me a few questions or connect or be coached, write down something on that contact form, send it in, and I'll call back within a day.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that all these links are in the show notes below. Now, I've seen this in the movies. I don't know if that is what you guys did at Desert Storm, but in the Air Force, you usually have what they call a call sign or something like that. Was yours Mike Alpha Foxtrot or?
No, all right. That is for the officers that flew. Okay. They had call signs. Okay. But however, I was given a nickname in the Air Force and I was called Flyboy.
By the way.
Okay. And it was really after the Air Force, but a very close friend of mine started calling me Flyboy. And I said, why are you calling me Flyboy? And he looked at me like I had three heads and said, you were in the Air Force, weren't you?
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't know Flyboy was a movie. And he actually gave me a one sheet and everything. So it was very, very good. But Flyboy would be my nickname.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, Flyboy, I mean, obviously, you've been above ground, you've been on the ground, and you've communicated with people and you've negotiated, I think, with terrorists with the kind of experience that you have and things of that nature. What's next, Flyboy?
What's next? Well, my whole goal is I am doing, uh, I'd like to do more speaking engagements. I'm working on a digital course so that you can just buy it online and you have my whole networking communication thing. And that's going to be, I think, launched in January of next year. And I hopefully next week am going to begin my own podcast.
Wow. For somebody who doesn't have one, you've been on a whole lot of podcasts. So
Yeah, I've been on a whole lot.
you can just extrapolate you speaking on those podcasts, and that's a show already, you know? So,
That's what I
absolutely.
want.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with us here on the show. I mean, your life story and your experience and just your humor really, really is going to have a lasting impression to those that are going to be watching this particular episode. So thank you so much, first of all, for your service and just being yourself, Flyboy.
You're most welcome, and thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share my story and what I want to do.
Absolutely. Now, wow, what an inspiring conversation with a Flyboy right there. And I think we all are going to walk away with not just some fantastic networking tips and but we also have a deeper understanding of how to actually then connect with people that we are coming across on a meaningful level. It's not a matter of just giving out business cards and I don't know, Flyboy, if you've seen at the end of an evening when you start running out of business cards, you start looking at cards of people you don't recognize and you start handing those away just so you can perpetuate the
Right,
cycle of just card bombing, I call it,
right,
so
right.
a lot of people
But
do that.
that's why I say you shouldn't really walk away with more than 15 or 20 business cards because you always have 15 or 20 business cards on you. Give those out. Anything else really doesn't matter, but do it in time. Do it. And if you listen, if you read the book, you'll learn how to do my follow up as well as contacting. And the follow up is key. If you want to take anything away from this, learn how to follow up.
Absolutely, I quite like that, and yeah, I will be putting all the links to Flyboy's details so that you can reach out to him and obviously learn a thing or two about networking and communication. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so you do not miss out on any insightful conversations like this. Until next time, keep networking and do it in a meaningful way. Bye for now.